Friday afternoon, late November, freezing wind cutting through the high street like it had a personal vendetta. Tom and Lewis were sat in the cab of a battered white transit outside a builder's merchant in Sheffield, heater on full blast, arguing about whether to sack the day off early or graft through the last job. Tom checked his phone, one missed call, unknown number. Lewis laughed, probably another scam, ignore it. Tom didn't. On the other end was a bloke called Mark, calm voice, local accent. Said he'd found Tom's name through a mate of a mate, needed help moving equipment out of an old unit before the landlord locked it Monday morning. Cash job that night. Lewis raised an eyebrow. Friday night, in this weather, dodgy unit, sounds like a horror film. They went anyway. The place was an abandoned industrial yard on the edge of town, rusted gates, floodlights flickering, wind howling through broken windows like it had lungs. Mark was there waiting, alone, wrapped up in a coat too thin for the cold. Inside were heavy tool cabinets, old machines, boxes stacked to the ceiling. No drama, just graft. 3 hours in, hands numb, backs aching, Lewis muttered he wished they'd stayed in the pub. Then Mark said something offhand that changed everything. He thanked them properly, said he'd lost his business 6 months earlier, divorce, debt, nearly lost his flat. This unit was the last thing tying him to the old life, and he couldn't face clearing it alone. No violin music, just facts. They finished just before midnight. Mark paid them and shook both their hands like it meant something. As they drove off, Lewis sat quiet for a minute, then said, "You know what, I needed this more than the money." Monday morning, Tom checked his phone again. Another message, same unknown number. Mark had recommended them to a contractor he knew. Big job, consistent work, no chasing payments, no nonsense. By the end of the week, Tom and Lewis had more booked work than they'd had all year. Funny thing is, they nearly said no, nearly chose comfort, nearly went home early. Sometimes the win doesn't come dressed as success. Sometimes it shows up cold, late, inconvenient, and asking if you can do one more job. And the mad part, that's usually the one that changes everything.